Hey, what's good, nation of the dingoes? It is your leader, Sam the Dingus here. I just got done with about an hour of training on this bag here, trying to make the most out of a day off of work. I have lots of big news to share with you guys, but this is a tutorial and people watching in the future, all this news will have already happened, so I'll save news for like its own videos. So let's just get into this video. And what is this video? You, being a smart viewer, loyal subscriber, read the title and saw that this is a left hook tutorial, or a lead hook actually. So I've reached this point in my training. This happened with flips for me too, where I was like, I don't want to make tutorials yet because I'm still a beginner, and so I want to make sure I actually have things down really well before I teach you how to do it, especially for something like flips or fighting where it's your safety on the line. But in my last fight, I did land a left hook. It was a nice punch. I watch it. I've probably seen it 1,000 times. So I do feel qualified at the very least to teach you how to do a hook with your front hand. For punches, there's two kinds of punches. There's angled punches and straight punches. That's a simple way to say it. Straight punches, angled punches. You use them based on your opponent's guard or positioning, to try to land a good shot. But in general, you can get the most power from these rotational punches, because you really get a lot of hips turn into it. And that is true for straight punches as well, but the notorious knockout shots are usually hooks and uppercuts. Now, most beginners, when they jump into fights, well, what they're going to want to do is just throw a power shot. Their strong hand is usually in the back. They're just going to want to loop it way around, give it everything they got, try to clip you with it. And if that hits you, you could be in trouble. But strategically, someone who knows what they're doing will have no problem dispatching that person. Now, here's just one little tweak that you could do if you're a beginner, and that's your strategy. Try throwing it with your front hand instead. People often aren't expecting that, and I find that a strong lead hook is the best possible weapon, although obviously some could argue that the jab is best. But if you ask me, my greatest weapon is the lead hook. It's powerful and pretty decently long range. And I think if you have that down, you can really rip your opponent's face off. Let me just walk around this bag a little bit throwing left hooks so you can just see it in action. Let's see if you can see my whole body. And then we'll go into the technique. Last angle, do it from here. So, the first thing let's talk about is what your arm and your hand is doing. In general, you want to have a guard here. I'm going to go over the basics. Might as well touch up on them everywhere I go. So, practice throwing punches from your guard, hooks included. So, for the hook, there's first two fist positionings you can do. One, like this. Two, like this. This is my personal preference, because if you hit like this, you hit them with your weaker knuckles on the end here, and it gets a little bit less power. It's not lined up, if you hit them with the edge, that energy can kind of roll off and miss your arm, Just clip them. So if you hit them like this, it guarantees that if you hit them, that shit's solid. It's going right to your arm. So that's what you want to do for a hook. So you want to keep it tight and have a nice bend in your arm. 90 degrees is good, but it doesn't have to be fully bent. Obviously, it just changes based on the range. If they're closer, less bend in your arm. If they're a little farther, you are able to open it up a little bit, stretch it out. But do keep in mind that throwing hooks far away is not necessarily safe, because a punch straight down the middle is always going to be faster than a hook around the side. So if you throw a long hook while you're in your opponent's jab range, now you're wide open. They can just pop you with that jab. Just a straight punch right in the middle while you're open here. So timing is everything. no technique, no matter how good, is impeccable. So here we got it, our fist like this. So what you're gonna want to do is start the flow of power. The way you get power in your punches is like almost 0% arm strength. It's all torque and technique. For example, just watch this. This is me throwing my arm as hard as I can. Using everything I have, right? Now here's me just very casually using body mechanics to throw a punch. Not only is it faster, stronger, it's sustainable, you know, because you're not literally just relying on pure muscle, and not even just muscular strength, but the weakest muscles. Not the weakest muscles, but much weaker muscles. So what I mean to say in very short is, to get power, the torque, all energy starts from the floor, literally from your feet. I mean, it's a lot to digest at once, but there is infinite details to technique that you can learn, so don't skip out anything. Just practice all the time, you'll find every little secret. But starts from the floor, you're gonna wanna start that motion, okay? That's what we're gonna discuss here. There's two hip motions really that happen when you're fighting. Opening and closing the door, as they say. When you throw punches with your left hand, jab, hook, you are what they call opening the door. Your hips normally are in this neutral position. Now they're open, right? So punches with your front hand, open with the hips. Got that? I know you might not be able to see my hips completely, but I believe you can see what my upper body is doing. So let me just angle this down just to make sure, but I trust the GoPro, holy. Open your hips for front hand punches. Perfect. And if you were wondering, for backhand punches, closing the door, that's the opposite. That is turning over your hips, like you're swinging a baseball bat. It's that kind of twisting that really helps you generate power. Think of a swing set. If you're on a swing set, like a children's playground swing set, and you're laying on the swing, like you put your stomach where the seat is, and then you spin the thing around, you turn in the seat like this, and then you let go, it just unwinds itself. That's what your body is made to do. It's very elastic, fibrous. So what you want to do is give tension so that it can build up, and then the release is instant and smooth. That's the key to true punch power. Okay, so I gotta spend a ton of details not talking about punching. Let's talk a little bit about the punch. So open your hips, and then that's when your hand's gonna come across. If you notice, I am not pulling my hand backwards to throw this punch. I am actually just turning my arm into the right position, and then my hips are turning me over. So I might come back just a little bit, just so I can be on the other side of my opponent's face. But from there, it's all just turn into it. If you can throw it from your guard, that is best, because you always return to your guard. You don't want to return to your guard and then have to take another step before you can throw the punch. You want to be able to just... And that's actually what happened in my fight. So my third Street Peace fight, Samthedingus versus Joestar. Look that up if you haven't seen it. So we were just dancing around a little bit. I could tell that he was timid, and I'm pretty timid too for a striker. And so we were just dancing. I was just like throwing out little jabs. I could tell that he wasn't gonna throw anything. He didn't throw anything, even though we got close to each other. So what I did, I said I have to close the distance fast. So I threw a kick that took a few steps, covered a lot of distance, and he expected me to be off balance. So I stepped, and whenever I landed down from the missed head kick, I took one small step back as fast as I could. And he thought I would still be off balance, so he tried to grab where I was, but I was no longer there. And from there, when I did that step back, he tried to grab me. I put my hands back to my guard. I saw what he did, and I was like, well, I have to punish him for being off balance. So then there it was. The perfect opportunity to land my favorite punch, the left hook. It's in my intro, actually, if you saw that. So it does take some practice to get power in your lead hook, but I think it's definitely worth it. So that's what you want to do. You want to just practice everything I've said so far, right? Start from the floor, turn your hips, get some torque into it, start from your guard, just turn into position, and then rotate your hips into the target. You don't need to throw a ton of juice into it yet, just get used to tagging it. What they say is try to sting the bag. So you want to move to the bag, smash it as fast as you can, and get out. Back to your guard. Now, obviously when you're throwing punches, you're not always starting from completely static. That's just the way I like to practice my punches, so I can guarantee I have explosive strength and solid technique. But most of the time when you're throwing punches in fights, sparring, pretty much every time you throw a punch, you will be moving. So if practicing your lead hook on a bag or even in the air just it isn't really feeling good, just get movement into it, get a little bit of flow going. Even just get a little bit of hip rotation. Make that a natural part of your movement, because then you can feel the power building up with every step. Whenever you turn your shoulder over, you're loading up to unwind. And then that's the best way to load up power for this punch. Normally I think efficiency and speed is the best, but if you need to get max power, you should know how to do it too. So what you do to get max power for a hook or any rotation punch is you just rotate the opposite way. So my punch rotates this way to the open side. To load power into it, you simply turn to the opposite direction. And then, just returning to your guard has a punch coming that's already strong. But you can rotate all the way through and get some ripping shots. But let me talk about the foot weight as well. So if you're moving around, obviously it doesn't really matter too much, but if you're going to be completely static and just practice torque, max power off of just static positioning, which is a great thing to do, then it's good to think about the weight placement of your feet. Because if you're trying to stay balanced in one spot, then it's nice to have that all mapped out ahead of time. So simply put, the way I like to think of it is, whenever I do the lead hook, I'm transferring the weight onto my back foot, just a little bit. Because my weight is normally balanced. I do like to stay balanced, but since you're turning to that open side, try putting the weight a little bit in the back. That might help you get the opening. Right, now, let me just talk about something I already talked about before. Loading up power. I just want to talk about what I call drag. Drag is good and bad. So what is drag? It's exactly what it sounds like. If you are skydiving, you put your arms out, you'll experience drag. Air resistance, that's what drag is. Now, it's not actually air resistance that I'm talking about for this purpose. It's maybe just waiting for your muscles to catch up to the G-force. I don't know. It's like the physics of it is delayed. But let me tell you what I mean. Dragging will happen when you load up a lot of power because you execute the motion and then you're just waiting for it to hit. So drag means that you successfully loaded a lot of power from your hips. Let me show you drag. See that? I finished the motion and then my fist was still coming and then it hit. So drag is good because it means you got a lot of power in your shot, but it also means you're really gassing your muscles and you could get tired if you throw too many of those. And you might not be fast, you might be overexerting yourself, so you could be easily red. Be careful. So if you want to maximize your potential, then you should practice for intensity. And intensity means getting drag, but reducing the drag time, the impact time based on the drag, if that makes sense. So when you set that drag, it's gonna hit hard no matter what. So your goal is to test explosivity, see how fast you can slam that train into a stop sign. That is how you get kill power. One last thing I want to talk about. I want to call this one catching the rocket launch, because that's kind of what it feels like. It's a way of loading power, sort of. It's like throwing yourself into position and then taking off, if that makes sense. Like you're like landing in the perfect position to unload it. Very hard to describe what I mean, but when I do it fast, it helps me. Let's just say you're starting from standing here, right? Just doing your punches. That is maximum speed, and here's maximum power. Something like that. So, to quickly get good power, a good mix of both. So pretty fast, pretty strong, but not the best at either. Then what you do is just very quickly throw yourself into the position that you would do before you throw a hook. And then that motion is already momentum, inertia, and object in motion tends to stay in motion. So you just got to rechamber that energy and send it flying. So it's just a very quick shift into position. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. This it was meant to be a lead hook tutorial, but it turned out to be more like a punch mechanics tutorial using the left hand as a proxy, and I'm totally cool with that. So I'm just glad I got some good training in today, about an hour, and now I just dropped some serious knowledge bombs on your heads, and I feel great. So let me just edit this for you guys, and see you around. Train hard. I'm getting a little fat. I spent the past 3 days just carelessly eating. But like I said, I got big news, and do want to catch you up on that. So I'll do that soon as well. Enough talking. Have a good day, everybody.